not starting yet. Don't get excited. We will be starting, what time is it? 10:37. That means we're going to start at 10:40 because I like round numbers. Jared is not here today, so we can do whatever we want. But also, the camera's working this time because Gabe's here. I'm not going to hop off the stage in the middle of someone talking and be like, I forgot to turn the whole thing on. We have excellent snacks provided by Isaac and Travis. So we're going to turn back the clock, the timer. He already did. For the next 2 minutes and 38 seconds, go get some cookies and maybe a napkin, because you may or may not have emotions while people are talking. It seems likely. And then we will get started in just a minute. Listen up, people. I'm just kidding. We're officially starting now. Isn't that so exciting? Today is not a normal service, in case you did not already gather that. If you have not been here for all of our announcements recently, we are doing biography, which is where some of our people come up here and tell you things that will make you laugh and cry and feel the full breadth of humanity. I don't know. I'm hyping this up, but it is going to be great because it's been great every time. I have to let you in on a secret. So there's going to be several speakers, and then I'm going to come up here and officially close everything. I'm going to pray. We're going to say amen. I'm going to say bye. We're going to turn off the camera, but then we have one more person. Okay, it's a secret special guest who is incognito and does not want to be out in the world, which I deeply relate to. So don't leave when I say bye. Don't just leave. That would be very sad. The internet, well, I told the internet's already going to know that they're missing something, but they won't know who. You got to come. A couple of announcements. One, I already said this, but Jared is not here, so if you have his number, afterwards, you just have to text him and be like, they did so great. Why do we even need you? Just kidding, we do need him. We did have small crises this morning, but we fixed it. It's fine. Reminder about parking. You can park across the street in the eye doctor spots that say, do not park here. Those are the spots we are allowed to park in, and we can park anywhere at $3. But if across the street, if there's spots that don't have a sign that say, don't park here, don't park there. Does that make sense? We have, I'm sure, tons of other stuff to tell you, but I don't know what. I made 0 notes. The theme for today is still here, and we said you can take that any way you want. Jarrett gave some ideas, but then I said you can take it any way you want. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. And then I immediately received questions about what was the right or wrong way to take this theme. So as a baseline, you're all correct, okay? And I don't have any slides or anything, so we're just gonna do an intro. Our first speaker today is Natasha. Everyone clap for Natasha. What? Oh yeah, we have brunch next week. That's the last Sunday of every month. We have brunch. We're probably gonna go to $3 because we can't think of anywhere else. Also, $3 is cool. So be there. Hello, yay.
Should not have worn a dress. I was like, I need inspiration. I have my Legend of Zelda dress, but I realized I'm facing a lot of people in a dress, so. Okay, so let's see. Okay, can y'all hear me? Okay, beautiful. All right, I'm a very emotional person, so I'm like, I'm not gonna cry, but I'm already tearing up. I was listening to Kingdom Hearts music on the way over, which was not a good idea, because I'm like, Hayden, but the music. But all right, scene. I moved to Tampa Bay 5 years ago. After organizing my new apartment and getting settled into my job, my first priority was not finding a church or a running group. It was to set up a dating app. Since my early 20s, I have been on and off the apps prioritizing finding a partner over making friends. Even before I moved, I had just ended a relationship a month before that had lasted about a year. The idea of being unpartnered and not participating in the dating scene felt foreign and scary. People my age were in relationships and ruminating on engagement timelines, and I felt behind. Mind you, I was only 25 at this time. While in the dating scene, I did attend 2 churches and joined a run group. However, my life focuses were dating, running, and church, in that order. I had made older age friends in a previous church, but interactions did not extend beyond designated church activities. I wanted to keep my schedule as open as possible for potential dates. About 2 years ago, I met the person who is now my ex. We dated for about a year and a half, but during that time, I felt secure. Because I had attained the coveted title of partner, I felt, now I can start making friends. During our dating history, we started to attend different church. I started participating in small group and took initiative in meeting with people outside of church activities. I also started to socialize more in my run group. I actually started to build friendships, but only because I was finally in a relationship. And as some of you may probably can guess, later our relationship deteriorated because of our different values. There had been times where I felt God had given me crossroads, but I continuously chose to remain in that relationship. Although I had a loving family, supportive friends, and great colleagues, I still prioritized my relationship status. If this relationship ended, what would that make me? Would anyone want to be with me? Would others perceive me as a failure? Am I becoming too old to be perceived as a desirable partner? I was 29. I was more apprehensive of being single than being in a relationship with someone who voted against the civil rights of others and themselves. After a significant argument, my ex stated he wanted to be alone for 3 months. At that time, I perceived us as broken up, but I was petrified to be alone and saddened at the loss of my girlfriend status. So I did what any emotionally mature person would do. I rebounded with someone so young, he was likely breastfeeding when the Twin Towers fell. He was an adult, but After that rebound ended, I distracted myself without processing my emotions and falsely believed I had moved on. However, my ex reached out, befuddled on why I hadn't reached out in 4 months. That put me in a tailspin because I questioned if I had technically cheated since he seemed to think we were still together. After calling my mom at 3 a.m., she said, "Talk to your pastor, talk to your friends." That Sunday, God blessed me with all of my friends. One friend in particular lit a fire under me, and I sent a strong response to my ex that afternoon. A few months later, I did return to the dating scene formally, but I noticed that it was negatively impacting my mental health. My anxiety manifests as a loss of appetite, and I was losing weight rapidly, which combined poorly with my daily exercise routine. I found myself in situations where people either did not treat me well or I was barely invested. I noticed many times I was not living my values, and dating was a stressor rather than fun. I realized that dating and trying to achieve the partner status was starting to take over my life again. What finally broke my hypnosis is that I had a date plan, but the person canceled the same day. Rather than feeling irritated, I felt relieved. I went to Juno and the Peacock, and I had a bougie post-church brunch. I then went to the Vinoy Hotel, and people watched under the shade until my parking elapsed. I realized at that moment that I had no desire to date. I just wanted to enjoy life. I decided to intentionally remove myself from the dating scene until 2028 to work on my mental health and to discover myself outside of seeking romantic relationships. My singleness is not attached to my self-worth, nor the ability of others to love me. I have friends and family that I can call if something sits heavy on my heart. I have colleagues and a supervisor who are able to pick up, oh God, I can't see, on the slightest changes in me that indicate something is on my mind. I work with adolescent girls in my job that allow me to plant seeds of self-esteem and decrease their own obsession with love, which is easier said than done in the war zone that is puberty, peer pressure, and perfume spray attacks. Being intentionally single allows me to reconnect myself with my values and to replenish relationships I may have neglected while distracted in the dating scene. And through all this, I know God has never left my side. He is like a parent that attempts to encourage you to make the best decision, but respects your autonomy to create your own path. And if you fall on your face once, twice, hundreds of times, He will provide a hand to help you up and dust off the dirt. God's love, family, friends, and colleagues allow me to see that my self-worth and allow me to still see my self-worth and self-love. Even if after this dating abstinence I do not find my life partner, I know I'm still loved here.
I didn't get myself a napkin. That was lovely. And I was thinking when you were talking that, that Bible verse gets thrown around like it's not good for a man to be alone. And we just like extrapolate that into like you have to be married. I don't think that's what that means. Like it's not good for us to be alone without each other. Like if you're feeling alone, you don't have to, because there's all these people here who actually do care. It's not like fake. I mean, maybe some of y'all are fake, but if you are, get out. No, just kidding. Stay here and do better. I think it's just really easy to have an ideal of what our life was supposed to look like. And we all have that in some aspect or another. Right? Like I pictured my life a certain way and it wasn't like this. But yet, this is better. This is more beautiful. And I think the more people we have in our circle who are rooting for us and love us and will support us no matter what, the more beautiful your life will be. So, put yourself out there to your friends. Okay, our next speaker is a lovely, lovely lady named Donna. Oh no, wait. You're supposed to go first, aren't you? I don't have my phone. You're supposed to go first. Our next speaker is Donna's daughter, Roxy, who is going to come up, and then Donna will follow. And actually, I'm going to let you introduce your mom when you're done.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Roxanne, but you can call me Roxy. When I was first asked to come up here and speak today, I was a little flabbergasted. I knew other people were going to share, but I had already convinced myself that I probably wasn't going to do this. And it wasn't just because speaking in front of people scares me. A lot of that fear comes from my past experiences with faith, from being afraid that I could stand in front of a congregation and say the wrong thing and possibly lead somebody down the wrong path. But after encouragement from others and after really thinking about what I wanted my message to be, I realized something. I'm still here. And I think all of us have a story about what it took for us to still be here. After my parents separated when I was young, I was still here. After spending 13 years in a religious environment that caused me deep spiritual harm, I was still here. After being told my sexual orientation was wrong, I was still here. And after coming to understand my gender identity and then spending years having that identity denied, I was still here. I have experienced verbal abuse, physical abuse, and spiritual abuse. There are even points in my life where I didn't even want to be alive anymore, and yet I am still here. For a long time, people told me I was wrong, that they told me I was too much. Some even made me believe that God felt the same way about me that they did. But no matter how complicated my relationship with religion became, I could never completely let go of God. Even when I wanted to walk away, I felt like God wasn't angry with me for being needing space. Even when I questioned everything I had been taught, God was still there. And eventually I realized that in order for me to have a healthier relationship with God, I had to let some things die. Not myself, not who I am, but the theology that taught me to hate myself. The fear that made me apologize for existing. The idea that I had to become whatever other people wanted me to be in order to be worthy of love. Growing up, I was always taught about the idea of growing up into something. We ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to grow up to be this. I want to grow up to be that. But I started realizing that maybe our lives aren't just about growing up. Maybe it's supposed to be growing in, to grow inward, to grow into ourselves, because you can grow up and become exactly what everybody else wanted you to be and still have no idea who you actually are. You can become the perfect child, the perfect employee, the perfect Christian, the perfect version of yourself according to someone else's expectation and still completely disconnect from yourself. So now instead of constantly asking myself, who am I supposed to grow up to be? I ask, who am I growing into? Who do I need to become for myself? Who did I need when I was younger? And how do I become that person now? We often hear about faith the size of a mustard seed, and something tiny is planted, and then with time, care, and nurturing, it grows into what it was created to become. And I think people can be like that too. A seed doesn't spend its life trying to become a different kind of plant, it grows into itself. And I think part of my relationship with God has been learning how to do the same, to stop trying to become who everybody else thought Roxy should be and start becoming more fully the person God already knew I could become. That doesn't mean I'm finished. I'm not. 5 years from now, my goal is to still be myself, just a version of myself that has grown deeper, learned more, and healed more, and loved more. And in 5 years after that, I hope I can say the same thing again. Because I don't think we ever reach one final version of ourselves. We keep growing in, we keep learning, and we keep becoming. And I believe I can be a per, and I think I can present through every version of that process. So when I say I am still here, I don't only mean that I survived everything that happened to me. I mean, I'm still here to grow. I'm still here to learn, and I'm still here to become. I'm still here to love people more authentically the way I believe Jesus calls us to love. I'm still here because I learned that questioning God does not mean God abandons you. Changing does not mean God abandons you. Growing into yourself does not mean God abandons you. Through every version of me I've had to let go of, every version of me I'm becoming now, and every version of myself I haven't met yet, I believe God will still be there. And I'm still here because God is still here. And as long as I'm still here, I'm still in the room. I still have room to grow. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I really do appreciate it. Up next is my beautiful, wonderful mother who has never abandoned me. She's always been by my side, and truly, I believe that we truly have grown together through these experiences and all these years. And it's such a privilege to call this woman my mother.
Maybe I should have went first so that I'm not so emotional. Okay. Okay. For a long time, I thought I knew exactly who I was. I knew what I believed. I knew what faith was supposed to look like. I knew what being a good Christian looked like. And I knew what being a good mother looked like. Or at least I thought. For 13 years, I was part of a highly controlled religious environment where little by little, I stopped trusting in myself. I stopped trusting my own questions. I stopped trusting my instincts. And I stopped trusting my ability to decide for myself what was right and what was wrong. And the strange thing is when something happens slowly enough, you don't always realize what you're losing. Eventually, I reached a place where I just simply accepted this is the rest of my life. I wasn't planning an escape. I wasn't imagining freedom. I couldn't picture some future version of myself on the other side of it. I had become really good at just surviving. And I think sometimes when you spend enough time just surviving, you mistake survival for living. But then something began to change, and a lot of that change started because of the person who just stood up here right before me, my daughter Roxy. As Roxy began understanding and expressing her own identity, I found myself caught between the child I loved and theology I had been taught I wasn't allowed to question. At first, I tried to make those things fit together, but eventually something in me just stopped. I knew my daughter and I knew her heart, and I loved her more than I feared the questions that were beginning to form inside me. So finally, I allowed myself to ask, what if what I've been taught isn't right? That question mattered because for the first time in a long time, I was allowing myself to trust my own voice. Around the same season of life, I experienced another kind of loss. I lost my mother suddenly. Grief has a way of changing the way you see things. I knew what it felt like to desperately want my mother and realize she wasn't coming back. And somewhere inside my own grief, I started thinking about Roxy. I wondered what it must have felt like to have a mother who was physically there, but in some ways wasn't reachable. I wondered how many nights that she had prayed for me to understand her, and how many times that she had hoped that I really saw her. How many times she had needed her mom, while her mom was still trying to reconcile the person standing in front of her to everything she thought she had been taught. And I couldn't change the fact that my mother was gone, but I realized something. I was still here. There was still time for me to listen, there was still time for me to learn, and there was still time for me to admit that maybe I had gotten some things wrong. There was still time to be the mother that my daughter needed, and I think that's where my deconstruction fully, truly began. Not because I had some plan to dismantle everything I ever believed. It started more simply. I loved my child enough to ask a question, and once I allowed myself to question one thing, I began examining everything. Eventually, I reached to the point where I knew at my core that I could no longer stay. Leaving wasn't difficult because I questioned whether I was making the right decision. I knew that I was. What I wasn't prepared for was the grief. I was walking away from 13 years of familiarity, community, relationships, and a future I had once accepted for the rest of my life. And I learned that you can know that something is unhealthy and still grieve what you thought it could have been. You can know that you can't go back and still mourn what you're leaving behind. And suddenly I was left with a question I hadn't asked myself in a very long time. Who am I now? At first, I wasn't sure, but slowly I began to realize that my identity hadn't disappeared. It was buried underneath years of expectation, fear, and other people's voices. And underneath all of that, I was still here. My faith is still here. It looks different. My relationship with God is still here. It looks different. My motherhood is still here. It looks different. I am still here, and I definitely look different. And I'm actually grateful for that, and I'm learning and unlearning. I'm still figuring out which things I believe because they were truly mine, and what things that I was told I had to carry. I don't have all that figured out yet, but maybe that's part of being free too. For the first time in a long time, I don't need to have every single answer. I'm learning to trust my own thoughts again, and I'm learning to ask questions without being afraid of where they might lead. I'm learning to change my mind, and I'm learning to experience joy without feeling guilty. I'm learning that freedom isn't something I have to apologize for, and maybe most importantly, I'm learning that surviving and living are not the same thing. For years, I survived a life I had accepted, but now I'm learning how to actually live one that I've chosen. And the life isn't perfect, and neither am I, and there are still things that I'm unlearning, and I'm still grieving, and there are all still pieces of myself that I'm discovering. But I don't think I need a tidy ending anymore, and I'm not trying to become the person I was before. I'm becoming the person who was underneath it all. And as it turns out, I actually don't mind her. And for Roxy, I wish I could go back and give the younger version of her the mother that I am becoming today. I can't. But somewhere along the way, while I was learning how to really see her, she helped me see myself. So, Roxy, I'm still here, but this time I'm beside you.
Dang, you guys. It's a good thing I wore the waterproof mascara today. I, first of all, just really appreciate you coming up here, all three of you, and you in the future. Because it's not easy to get on stage to begin with. Like, I think we all know that on some fundamental level, but it's also much easier to get up here and talk about stuff, talk about theology, talk about the Bible, talk about a good thing that happened to you, not something that you have walked through wishing that you weren't the whole time, not something that makes you cry or makes you deeply angry or makes you want to run away. Like, that's hard. It is hard to share parts of yourself like that with other people. And that's the only way that we actually get to have community. And not in like we do life together kind of way. I mean, like, this is how we care about each other. We decide to be honest enough to share the parts that we don't want to, that we think might make people think about us differently or judge us in some way, or maybe that we're still judging ourselves for. But we do it anyways, and we have a little bit of trust that it's not going to be laughed at, that it's going to be taken gently, that people will be there to come beside us and walk together. And I have no notes. Normally, I'm like super prepared. Not in life, just for this. I have no notes. I did not write a benediction. I didn't do anything because I just had a feeling like, oh, just, it'll come to you what you need to say. And I was like, well, I don't like that as a baseline, but also that means I have to trust something. And I don't like that. I don't like it. I'm not great at it. And guess what I have to talk about? Trust. For a very long time, was deeply convinced that if I just showed people who I actually was, like if I made apparent all of the emotions that live in my head and my body, that it would be too much. And I don't mean that like, oh, you're too much. Like, yeah, I am. Actually, I am. This is why Jarrett is a good counterpart to have, because he does not have all of these emotions in general. And therefore, when I get up and do this, next week he's gonna be like, tone it down. We cannot be crying every week, which is true, okay? It's like objectively true that we cannot come into church and be this emotional every Sunday. That's exhausting. And also, if we don't have this part, then we're not really having church. We're just having theology class. And I've talked about this before, but when we started Different Church, it was a little bit against my will. And Jarrett's wife, Tiffany, is in the back. She knows. Yeah, it was like against all of our will. Like, we did not want to do this, not because we didn't want this to exist. I didn't know that it was going to be this great. But also, like, we didn't want to lose everything that we had at this previous place we were at. I didn't want to lose 8 years of community with people. He didn't want to lose 15 years of community with people. And it ended violently, as it always does. And we were like, well, we'll just start this. But before we left, my husband and I lost a baby. And I told, I'm going to say 0 people. I told the people that absolutely had to know because they knew that I was in the hospital. I told the head person because I wasn't there for a few days. I skipped Mother's Day. I just couldn't handle it, and I couldn't tell anyone. And it's not because I physically could not tell anyone, because I didn't accept that it was okay for me to say something like that and not be able to say it, not be able to even get it out. But it was like killing me inside. And we started this, and then COVID happened like 3 weeks later, and then that was fun. And we just kept doing this thing and doing it and doing it and doing it. And then we had Nova, who, I don't know if you've seen her this morning. Fabulous. She is wearing a leopard print cowboy hat with leopard print dress to here and then hot pink. And I said, girl, you look good. And she goes, And I was like, I made you. Sometimes I regret that, but mostly. Like, we had her, and she cried all the time, and I cried all the time, and it was still COVID. And, like, I cried not because I was just overwhelmed. I cried not because I was just not sleeping, which both of those are true. I cried because all of the people that I thought would be there to hold that baby weren't. And it was a loss not just for me, but it was a loss for them. They never got to meet her. They never got to see her fabulous hat. They never got to witness her screaming at them when they tried to pick her up. I say they never got to hold that baby. She would not have allowed that. They never got to be in her circle, okay? In her orbit, maybe. And it was so paralyzing to have this thing that I was carrying around that nobody knew that there was one before her. And nobody knew how sad I was that she was here and all of them weren't. And they didn't care enough to be. They didn't care enough to reach out. And then I had to go to therapy. But I learned, and I'm still learning, that it has to exist somewhere outside of your body. That yes, there's a time and a place, right? I'm not just gonna go up to a stranger in a grocery store and be like, would you like to know my deepest, darkest secrets? No, they don't. I'm not gonna, if I'm just having a passing interaction with someone and they're like, oh, good morning, I'm gonna be like, it's not good. No, there's time and place, right? But also, I don't have to lie. I don't have to pretend. I can have a little bit of trust that people actually do care because they actually do. Like, I know the internet has made us think that everyone on the planet is a horrible person and we should never interact with them. And sometimes we're those people. It's not true. In general, in real life, when you are faced with someone directly in front of you and they are we're not nasty to them. That's not how this works. There's like actually hormonal, biological things that happen when you're crying in front of someone in real life. Like we are biologically made to have empathy for each other and to care. Like if you see kids on a playground and one of them falls down and is crying, they all stop and look. Why? Not so they can be like, haha, she's dumb. No, so they can be like, oh no, something's wrong. Somebody should help them. We should. Am I allowed to go over there? And we as adults are just like blinders. We're like, someone's crying. It's not me this time. I'm not going to ask, right? But we have to. We have to. And I think in many ways, being still here means still having a little bit of trust. Even on the days that we really don't have any, the fact that we're allowed to say that we don't have any means we have some. We have enough trust to say, I don't know if I believe this anymore. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I don't know if I care anymore. And on the days that we do care and we do want to do it, then we have enough trust to keep moving. And it can be really beautiful. And so after Nova, we lost another baby, and that turned into an emergency situation. Like, I had to have emergency surgery. They were like, oh, if you would have come 2 hours from now to the hospital, one of my, arteries had ruptured, and they were like, your whole abdomen would have been full of blood. Like, you would have literally been bleeding out inside your body. And I was like, oh, okay. They're like, so we're going to do surgery now. I was like, oh, cool. I'm so happy about this. What's happening? It was on, when was that, New Year's? I don't know. I blacked it out. If you disagree with everything I'm saying, just know you can compartmentalize and block it out forever, and it definitely won't affect your life. It will not show up in any other areas. It will not be like whack-a-mole. But that was like an emergency situation, and there was all these people who cared, and there was all these people who like Sherry was already speaking that day, so I didn't have to. And I could have gotten up here, because I got up on that Sunday, one day after having surgery, and I was like, hey, Sherry's speaking. And instead I was like, you just need to know that this happened. I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I'm saying that you don't have to carry it by yourself. Whatever it is, you don't. There's no kids in here, right? People give a shit, okay? They really do. They really do. And when you carry it by yourself, when you won't tell anybody, when I won't tell anybody, it compresses you into a grave of what you could be, of the love that you could be experiencing, of the community that you could be experiencing, of the healing you could be experiencing. When you shove it into a box, it will not heal. When you bury it in the ground, it will not heal. It has to come out. And if you just let it live somewhere outside of your body, it doesn't magically fix everything, but it does make it better. And then slowly, years later, you can just get up here and talk about it without sobbing hysterically the whole time. I feel like I should call my therapist from back then and be like, you were right. Anyways, seamless transition. As if I stay up here too much longer, I'm gonna need someone to bring me a napkin. I'm just really grateful for you, for all of you, for trying, for your presence, for the ways that you have faith when I do not, for believing, even just a little bit, that it doesn't have to be like it was. That it doesn't have to be like it still is in many, many, many churches. That all of the theology that says you have to be and believe and do a certain thing for God to accept you is garbage. That hurting people with the Bible is not okay, actually. Like, actually not. I think there's a fair amount, there's a tiny amount of progressive churches. Maybe someday there'll be a fair amount. But it kind of feels like we're just like on an uncharted territory. Like there's not really a path of how to do this because the people with the plan do not want to talk to us. And honestly, that's probably a good thing because we can make the road by walking. And it might be really hard. But if we make a road, then other people can use it. So, wherever you're at, just keep walking. Just keep moving. Eventually, the scenery will change. It might not get better, but it'll change. You'll have new terrible things to look at. Okay. I don't have an official benediction. What am I supposed to say at the end? I have no notes. We have brunch next week. Eat some snacks. If you want Different Church to keep existing, you can donate online or in the box in the back. The stickers are free. Take some and wear them. Put them on your water bottle. I don't know. Be like Nova and put one on your hat. Put them on your car. Put them wherever all the places you would put a sticker and some you wouldn't. And next week, we will be back to regularly scheduled programming for at least a week or two. And we'll have like actual music. And Jarrett will be here so we can harass him in real life. And I can't promise I won't make you emotional, but I'll do my best, okay? And yeah, I'm gonna pray. And then we're gonna turn the camera off. And we're all not gonna leave. Okay. God, thank you for how weird humans are. We're just weird and gross. We get sweaty and bloated and stinky. And we love sugar because it makes us feel good about life when life sucks. And caffeine, and we do so many things that are questionable. And yet, questionable is the one thing that we're not. There is no question that we were created good. There is no question that love exists, that truth exists, and that wherever we find those two things, God is there. So help us to keep moving. Give us faith when we have none. Help us lean on each other. Give us strength to keep going when we don't want to. Give us the ability to put our Bibles down and go to the beach when we need to experience you outside of what we've been taught. Release us from the guilt and the shame and the shoulds of everything in the back of our minds that says we're not doing it right. And give us peace. A peace that maybe we won't understand. A peace that feels weird because it shouldn't be there in that situation, but that still shows up. Still says you're on the right path. Still says you're making the path. And bring us back together next week so Richard Rohr can make us rage. Amen. Gabe's going to give me a thumbs up.